I have covered wars, elections, financial collapses, and summits that promised history but delivered nothing. Yet nothing prepared me for the feeling I had that night. The sense that the old world order wasn't just cracking, but quietly walking away. This wasn't chaos, it was karma. I remember exactly where I was when the news alerts began stacking up on my phone. One vibration after another, each more unsettling than the last. First, another U.S. ally publicly distancing itself from Washington. Then, high-level meetings between former Western partners and BRICS officials. And finally, the headline that made me stop walking altogether. Missile strike triggers emergency response in Israel. Regional escalation feared. The world wasn't exploding. It was rearranging itself. For decades, American leadership was something allies complained about, but relied on. It was loud, messy, sometimes arrogant, but predictable. Or so we thought. Under Donald Trump's return to the global stage, that predictability vanished. Diplomacy became transactional. Loyalty was treated like a subscription, cancelable at will. Allies were lectured publicly, threatened economically, and humiliated politically. At first, they endured it. Then they adapted. And finally, they began to leave. Quietly at first, then openly. I sat in a hotel lobby in Ankara, watching diplomats slip in and out of private rooms. No press, no flags, just whispered conversations and unreadable expressions. One European official said it bluntly to me over coffee. "We didn't betray the United States, we simply stopped believing it would protect us tomorrow." That sentence echoed everywhere I went. The Western media kept calling it defection. That was wrong. What I saw wasn't rebellion. It was migration. The BRICS bloc, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, had transformed. It was no longer just an economic talking point or a symbolic counterweight to the G7. It had become a lifeboat. New members and partners lined up quietly. Middle Eastern energy powers, African states tired of IMF strings, Asian economies seeking insulation from sanctions. Not because BRICS was perfect, it wasn't, but because it didn't demand obedience disguised as values. A Gulf diplomat told me, "With Washington, loyalty feels conditional. With BRICS, it's transactional, but honest." That honesty was intoxicating to countries long treated as junior partners. Trump dismissed the shifts as fake news and weak countries hedging. But behind closed doors, even U.S. officials admitted the truth. The alliance system was fraying. Tariffs used as weapons. Security guarantees treated as leverage. NATO questioned. Asia pressured. The Middle East whiplashed. The message was clear. Align fully, or don't expect support. Many countries chose a third option: diversify and escape dependency. That's how power erodes, not with explosions, but with alternatives. The Middle East doesn't announce its turning points. It whispers them, and then lets fear do the talking. I was in Jerusalem when the sirens cut through the evening air. Not drills, not tests. Real. Phones lit up, streets emptied. The Iron Dome activated, its defensive arcs visible against the dark sky like angry constellations. A missile had been launched, its origin disputed, its intent debated, but its message unmistakable. Israel, for the first time in a long while, felt vulnerable. Not destroyed, not defeated, but shaken. In the following hours, Israeli officials spoke carefully. No bravado, no immediate retaliation. Because the regional equation had changed. For decades, Israel operated under a powerful assumption: unquestioned U.S. backing, diplomatic cover, military resupply. political shielding. But as Washington's focus fractured and allies drifted, that certainty dulled. I spoke with an Israeli security analyst who looked more tired than afraid. "It's not the missile that worries us," he said. "It's the silence afterward." No immediate Western coalition statements, no emergency summits, no thunderous warnings, just calculation. Israel wasn't abandoned, but it wasn't automatically centered either. And that difference matters. Regional powers took notes. Iran watched restraint instead of escalation. Gulf states watched Washington hesitate. Turkey watched everyone. Power, after all, is not what you say. It's what others believe you'll do next. And belief was shifting. One Arab diplomat told me, "The region no longer sees America as the conductor. It's just another instrument." That wasn't anti-American. It was observational. Here's the uncomfortable truth. This wasn't about Trump alone. He accelerated trends that were already forming. Resentment over sanctions, frustration with double standards, fatigue with endless lectures from capitals that ignored their own contradictions. Trump didn't invent the backlash. He removed the filters. And karma doesn't arrive with judgment. It arrives with consequences. What I witnessed wasn't collapse. It was multipolar birth pains. Countries weren't choosing East over West. They were choosing options over dependence. BRICS wasn't replacing NATO. China wasn't replacing America. Russia wasn't leading a new order. The world was simply refusing to kneel to a single one. That's terrifying for empires, and liberating for everyone else. In Washington, the tone shifted. Officials spoke of re-engagement, repairing trust, reaffirming commitments. But trust isn't a switch, and credibility doesn't reset with speeches. A former U.S. diplomat told me, "The world didn't turn against us. It grew up." That may be the most painful realization of all. By dawn in Jerusalem, the streets filled again. Coffee shops reopened. Life resumed. But something invisible had changed. Not borders, not treaties, not flags. Expectations. Allies now ask, what happens if America hesitates? Israel asks, what happens if escalation brings isolation? The world asks, what if power is no longer singular? Those questions don't disappear. They multiply. I've learned something covering this moment in history. Empires don't fall when they lose wars. They fade when others stop orbiting them. This wasn't betrayal. It wasn't rebellion. It wasn't chaos. It was karma. Slow, structural, unavoidable. And as I closed my notebook that night, one truth settled in. The world didn't end. It moved on. And I, James Smith, will be here to document what comes next.